Steven! When's the last time you backed out of something at the last minute?
Oh. You mean like flaked?
Yes. See? Good question. We're not starting off with Lady Gaga meat dresses.
It eventually turned into the meat dresses conversation. I was asking if you had to guess which fast food restaurant Lady Gaga would end up at, which would it be, which is a hard-hitting question. But
sure.
Last time I flaked... Well, I don't know if this counts, but I kind of flaked out of the Odyssey holiday work party.
Why would you do that?
It was on a Thursday. We were doing the podcast. I was just coming off 3 days of sickness, and it was my first day back, and told everyone that I would be going. Well, not everyone. I had like 2 people ask if I was going out of the 100 that work on our floor. And I told them yes. Then I kind of backed out at the last second and just didn't go.
Well, you know what? I do appreciate you put the podcast before everything. So
yeah,
thank you.
That's what it was about. It was about the podcast, not because I was tired / sick / didn't want to travel.
You know, I famously spilled alcohol over our program director and the market manager during a holiday party.
Which one?
It was the one that was at Nick's Crispy Tacos.
I didn't go to that one.
It was the year after I made a stink. I didn't make that much of a stink, but it was the year after I sent the email out about how we were not going to have a Christmas party. And I was like, cool, let's do our own Christmas party.
What was you put a? It wasn't like a strongly worded email or anything.
It wasn't that bad. It was just, I think it's kind of lame when you don't do a Christmas party, but it happens quite frequently these days. And like this year, obviously with the timing of everyone, getting laid off at KMBR, we thought it'd be best not to do a Christmas party.
Yeah, didn't have much to celebrate. You felt, or
yeah,
it didn't feel right to celebrate.
Exactly. But like when we were like 195-7 the game year, they didn't do a Christmas party for whatever reason, and I sent out an email just saying we should get together because, we're not doing a Christmas party. And I just put ... okay, and then everybody was fine with it, except, the higher ups were kind of like, Derek, what were you doing here? I'm just like, I'm just saying, let's have a Christmas party. That's it.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to talk bad about the salespeople, but I'll just say this. It did feel like the holiday party was more suited to their schedule because each of these things has always been scheduled on a Thursday. And as far as I know, a majority of the salespeople don't have to work in the office on Friday. So, can have a little, although it was from like 4 to 6, so no big deal. But I'll say this, they do know where to schedule it because they put it at the hotel via rooftop. And I did have a little bit of that FOMO, Derek.
Well, we did a Christmas party at the Hotel Via as well. And that's a very good spot because were you there when we all went out for John Curley's Irish family get together during St. Patrick's Day up there?
No, not that one. You remember I was with my ex at that time and I had real trouble getting to you guys.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That's right. Well, that was a good time. And yeah, Christmas parties are always fun. And yes, Steven, you should realize now that in radio, it's not about the people that put the shows together or even the hosts. It's about the salespeople.
Well, it is.
That's all that matters.
They are the ones keeping us afloat, so.
Sure they are.
Yeah.
And they're doing a great job of it. Anyway, for me, now that I've gotten older, I flake out of plans all the time now.
Yeah.
Not all the time, but like I'm more like, I don't feel like going that. Like the last time I did that, Jacob was having his birthday get-together thing for Fleet Week in the marina.
Yes.
Or Fort Mason, actually.
Yeah.
And I was all set up to go out there. I don't think this counts as flaking, but headed to BART. It was the same day that Texas was playing Oklahoma, so I was like, shit. I'm going to miss that, but got to support my buddy Jacob. So get to the line at BART and then get on the train. And it was a shit show. Absolute shit show. The trains weren't moving. Didn't know how long the delay was going to be. Literally, the doors open with people coming in and out for like a good solid 20 minutes. And then I thought to myself, what am I doing? I'm going to go home and just watch this game. I'll explain to Jacob why I'm not going into the city. And it was fine. I don't know if that counts as a flake, but that's kind of the last time I did that.
The flake doesn't matter when it's a group of people. You've kind of learned also when you get older that if it's a big group, they don't really care so much if you don't show up because they have each other. However,
that's true.
If it's just a single person, if it's just a single friend where Jacob is like, hey, I'm not doing anything for my birthday. I'm going to be on my own. Do you want to hang out? I don't know if he'd ask you that.
That would never happen with Jacob because at the end of the day, if you flaked on Jacob, he'd be like, fucking weak. All right, I'll go get drunk somewhere else.
Or he'll come to you. I'll come to you.
True. Yeah, pretty much.
he would say fucking weak.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what he said. I texted him and he called me back and he was like, this is fucking weak, dude. Not gonna show up to my birthday? And then like in the span of 5 seconds, all good, bro. We'll do another time.
Yeah. God, I haven't flaked too much on many things lately, but it doesn't count as flaking when you reject it initially. Just
that's true.
I'm not going.
Well, you are terrible at double booking something because we were all supposed to go watch games this past Saturday, and little did I know that you already made plans to go to a birthday party.
Little did I know either. I forgot I agreed to that. Yeah.
Just your opinion, man. Stephen Langford, Derek Papa. We'll be talking about flaking out on an NFL team tonight, along with the divisional round of the playoffs, which I would say was much better than the wild card round. Would you agree, Stephen?
I'd agree wholeheartedly.
Okay. We'll also talk about
the NFL's super divisional round, Derek.
Yes, it was more super than the Super Wildcard Weekend, which is not called Super anymore, Stephen.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll also talk about Major League Baseball's Hall of Fame and the voting and kind of all the bullshit that goes into it, but we'll get to that later. Let's talk about Ben Johnson. Oh. And we were all prepared for him to be the Raiders head coach. They fired Tom Telesco so he could come in and pick his own GM and quarterback, and he was going to be one of the highest paid coaches in all of football. It was set up beautifully for him. And every insider that you follow that covers the Raiders was all like, this is going to happen. Vinny Bonsignor, who's pretty connected with the Raiders, was like, I would be surprised if this didn't go down. Hondo Carpenter is breaking news every 5 minutes with every goddamn article he posts, and he was expecting Ben Johnson to be hired. Even Ian Rappaport was saying this is the expectation amongst league circles. The only guy that didn't believe it was Adam Schefter, who did go on McAfee and was like, I'm hearing all this stuff about the Raiders, and I would say the Bears are still in play. And sure enough, they were. About an hour before the news broke, Josina Anderson tweeted out saying that the expectation is that Ben Johnson is going to decide between the Bears and Raiders. And in the end, he chose the Bears. And I do not blame him at all for this because yeah, it sounds good to have all that power to choose the GM and quarterback and everything and start from scratch. But in reality, you're up shit's creek. It's tough. Like, especially in that division with those coaches and those quarterbacks. Yeah, it's better to start your NFL coaching career with some talent, with potential, with Caleb Williams. So I do not blame Ben Johnson at all for, I guess, changing his mind at the last minute like he did a year ago with not taking the Commander's job. So, yeah, I think it was, honestly, the better move for him to go to Chicago.
Did he change his mind, though? That's my question.
Or did he use the Raiders for leverage?
Was there a change of heart, or did he use the Raiders? Because we've seen players do this before, or coaches do this before. And I think the video that the Bears posted earlier was rather telling when he went into I guess it's the Bears headquarters and kind of got a round of applause from all of their staff members. But before I give my kind of take on it, listen, I mean, I'm just...
You haven't seen this yet.
Yeah, just listen to this little thing.
Everyone get back to work. Listen, thank you so much. My family and I, we are beyond excited. This is exactly where we wanted to be. It's exactly where we wanted to be. Where we want you. This is going to be a challenge. I am well aware of that. I know what this division's about. And this is exactly where we want to be.
All right. So
yeah, you said it 3 times. I hear you.
So he obviously has the quarterback, right? I mean, there's Caleb Williams, and I tried talking myself through the podcast into thinking that getting control of your general manager and being in what you'd think is, I mean, it's still a dysfunctional organization, but going from a place from the Chicago Bears where it seems that their front office is in disarray with fans chanting "sell the team" during one of their games. Like, I figured I talked to myself into thinking maybe the Raiders were the better destination. But then I saw this video, and then I saw his wife and those 3 kids. No knock on Las Vegas. They'd probably go to Henderson or Somerset or whatever, one of those adjacent towns.
Yeah.
But like, if you're a family member of his, feels like Chicago would kind of be the place that you do want to be and live long term. It might be better for his family, though. I've heard, like, I've talked to Fortenbaugh a lot about like living in Vegas and all of that, and he's I don't think he lives there anymore, but he spoke glowingly of.
No, he's Vegas. In Connecticut now.
Yeah, but you also gotta. He said, yeah, but you do have the weather. And I know Chicago is in extremely cold weather, but they've been living in Detroit for the past few years, so I don't think any cold weather is going to stop them. I think Chicago is just probably a better fit for him, a better fit for his family. And the reason that I got myself so hyped up about Ben Johnson to the Raiders is just because all these insiders were saying something. I should have listened to Benjamin Albright. I always think I got to listen to Benjamin Albright, who covers the Broncos mostly. He's based in Denver, but he's normally right about these sorts of things. And
you think so?
Yeah. And he was also pretty hesitant to say that Ben Johnson going to the Raiders is a sure thing.
That's fair. I mean, I have seen him get his fair share of things wrong, but he is tapped in better than, I am. So I'll give him credit there. But as far as, like with that video, that's just something you say when you are the head coach of a new place. So I'm not going to put a lot of stock into that. However, you see those 3 kids, you see his wife. If I was a family man, I would rather be in Chicago than Las Vegas. And yes, there are family-friendly areas like Henderson. Chicago, from when I was there, I would rather live in Chicago than Las Vegas. That's just the point I'm at in my life now, where Chicago, like Las Vegas, there's always just something to do, and which is cool, but also like I'm not into partying all the time. Although when I was in Chicago, I think I told you this, when I went on that tour, the architecture tour, basically they said the downtown area, there is no nightlife. Where you go is the suburbs where all the bars are hopping.
Right.
So, regardless of all that, Detroit to Chicago, not that far. His family honestly could stay in Detroit and he could still see him quite a bit.
Right.
So it's not that bad of a move. And all this talk about he didn't want to be in division with Dan Campbell. He was afraid to coach against Dan Campbell. I'm like, please. If it's Ben Johnson running the show in Detroit, he could run circles around Dan Campbell, which we'll talk about later. But, yeah, there were some insiders that were just like, why would he ever choose the Raiders over the Chicago Bears? It makes no sense. There is no quarterback set up. You have the 6th overall pick. You might be able to get Shedeur Sanders to drop to you, but what are the chances of that? I still don't know if that's likely with the Browns and Giants ahead of the Raiders, but yeah, I can't fault him for it. It is a better move, and we've been hearing about Ben Johnson to the Bears for months now. Like, shit, I remember you, me, and James Pappas talking about it at Massier's in Walnut Creek, where he was like, I can't stand the Bears. Eberflus sucks. I'd rather have Ben Johnson as the head coach. And that was a rumor for a little bit of time. So it was always set up like this.
Yeah.
I think not like there was leverage, but Ben Johnson was seriously considering going to the Raiders. And then he probably didn't give the Bears an answer. So they interviewed more people. They were trying to get an interview with Marcus Freeman, who lost the national championship last night. There was even talk of the Bears interviewing Eddie George, who's coaching at a HBCU right now. But in the end, he called up Brian Poles and said, I'd rather coach you guys. So I can't fault him for that one. As far as the Raiders now, I know fans are going to be pissed off, and they are, because they feel like they've been hoodwinked, bamboozled when it came to all this information. And now fans are going after the beat reporters saying, like, how dare you give us misinformation?
Yeah.
And I would say, everybody relax. Like, they're told this stuff. Like, for Vic Tafur, yeah, he's tapped in, and I guess the expectation was it was going to be Lance Newmark and Ben Johnson to the Raiders. And I'm sure Raider people told Vic Tafur that. And with Hondo, it's probably the same thing. Also with Hondo, when Hondo has a good article out with actual good bullet points on information, I'll read it. I got to say, since I followed Hondo Carpenter, every day it's just breaking, something I don't really care about.
Yeah.
Like every article is insane. But then when he actually has the details, it's pretty good stuff. So yeah, now fans are turning on the beat writers, and I would say relax on that one. That happens sometimes. I think that Mark Davis probably thought he had a sure thing, and in the end, it didn't happen. So Tom Brady worked his magic. I don't know if you were at a bar or anything where you watching that Lions Commanders game. Tom Brady, I mean, he was smart, didn't say a goddamn thing about Ben Johnson the whole night. Even that play where David Montgomery flips the pass to Amon-Ra St. Brown, he didn't say shit.
It actually was. I've never seen that before.
Yes, but he didn't. It was the best tweet of the night. Tom Pelissero, I'll give him his credit. He tweeted out a play so crazy, Tom Brady almost said Ben Johnson's name.
Yeah.
He knew what he was doing. So Raider fans, yes, you're going to be pissed off, and you kind of like, should you question why they fired Tom Telesco in the first place? I will now too. Like, yeah, the whole move was to make it appealing to Ben Johnson, and maybe you're just trying to get a guy that Tom Brady knows, or maybe a guy that's a good fit with the next head coach. But I think he could have kept Tom Telesco in that spot, given what the outcome was.
Maybe. But also, you talk to a lot of Chargers fans, and I only know one, and that's Evan Giddings. And Tom Telesco didn't exactly have a high approval rating. So even though I do think he deserved at least one more year, I do think eventually, like, there were going to be some moves that made you realize why, this is why the Chargers let him go after a decade. And I think, that was kind of a long time coming. Yeah, the Raiders don't really have much of a direction, and I don't think the fans know how to feel, who to blame. I think it's sad that they're blaming all the beat writers, because I think the one guy that you have to blame that no one seems to, even Tom Brady's taking a brunt of it right now, is the guy at the very top. Blame Mark Davis for not coming up with some sort of enticing enough offer, doing something to woo him so that they could take him away from Chicago. I may be placing the blame on the wrong person, but if I had to, I'm always going to start it with Mark Davis.
I'm always down to blame Mark Davis. However, from what I've read, Steven, the Chicago Bears right now, Mike Florio went through all of the top paid coaches in football right now. Right. And Andy Reid makes the most. Then it's Sean Payton. Then it's, I forget, but John Harbaugh makes $12 million a year. Supposedly the Chicago Bears, and this doesn't include Kevin O'Connell getting a contract extension today. Mm-hmm. Supposedly the Chicago Bears are going to pay Ben Johnson $13 million a year, which is right below Kyle Shanahan at 14. Supposedly the Raiders offered him $15 million a year, and in the end, it wasn't enticing enough for him. And that's all you could do at the end of the day. You can, I mean, shit, man. They made it as appealing as possible. And their situation's not that appealing. They don't know who the quarterback's going to be, but they gave him full power, and they gave him one of the highest paying head coaching jobs in all of the land, to steal from Matt Barrows. But yeah, in the end, it just wasn't enough. So, but just move on, baby, I would say.
But if you give him the highest offer and he still doesn't accept it, what does that say about you and your franchise?
Well, what does that say about Farhan Zaidi every year with the Giants?
He didn't offer the highest bid.
Didn't he not offer the same thing with Ichiro with Ohtani? Sorry, I got Ichiro in my mind.
10 years, $700 million?
Was that on the table?
I don't think so.
It had to be in the ballpark.
Not 700 milli.
I don't know. Walter, you would know. Hello, host.
Yeah. Hey, look at Farhan. You're not exactly using. Yes, Farhan and Mark. If Farhan did that, then sure, they belong in the same category. So you're just looking at that and you're like, I don't want to join that team. I don't care what amount of money you're offering me.
Yeah, but can you blame him though? Because they offered him.
I'm not blaming Ben Johnson, but I can blame Mark Davis.
I just think it's easy to blame Mark Davis. And believe me, Steven, I'm not a fan of Mark Davis. I just think they did everything they could. And in the end, he was like, I'd rather go to the team that has a quarterback right now.
Yeah, but there's well, then there's another thing too.
Yeah.
How do you not have a quarterback right now? How does any of that work? It all starts from the top, Derek. So that's who I'm going to be looking at. And the beat writers really, look, I got to be honest about and you don't really hear this much from beat writers at all. They don't really write much of consequence. They say these very specific. They have these very specific ways of reporting this news. I don't think that either of them ever said Ben Johnson's becoming the next head coach of the Raiders, deals on the table, agreement pending soon or something. It's not like an Aaron Judge, John Heyman situation, arson judge. I can't believe this. It's not like that, right? They all used very specific words. Vinny Bonsignore, I'd be surprised if Ben Johnson's not their next head coach. Well, consider him surprised because he thought he was going to be, but he's not. No one ever said it was a sure thing, but Raider fans do this because their team, our team, I guess, I'll count myself in that fan base. Our team is at such a low point right now that we need something to give us any hope. And we thought Ben Johnson was that new hope, Star Wars 4, but it wasn't.
Thank you, Guru.
But he wasn't he wasn't that new hope.
No, he was not.
Sorry, episode 4. Damn it, I blew that one.
No, either way, it's all good.
That could have counted as a guru. I'll text him and see if
that totally is a guruism. Especially like last week where I was watching a guru video and he was like, "I don't know about these Warriors anymore, man. I don't know about these Warriors. Like, tomorrow we'll talk about last night. What about last night? Demi Moore."
Yeah. I'm surprised. I don't know. I haven't listened to obviously like all 4 hours of their show talking about the Warriors, but I'd be surprised if he hasn't used and the Warriors just didn't make a trade. That's life. Frank Sinatra.
Yeah, we got coming up from Thursday. We got 2 weeks away from the NBA trade deadline.
Yeah, man, we're pretty close.
We'll save the Warrior talk for Thursday. I'm exhausted talking about Warriors, to be completely honest with you.
But next options though.
Yeah,
Derek, I got to be consistent. We've done a lot of these episodes, right? And we've recorded a lot of them. And when I was of the mind that Ben Johnson wasn't going to the Raiders, like there was no shot, I did kind of have the point, and I guess I have to go back to this. It's sick when you do say such sure things, but I'm also of the mind that the Raiders do need a head coach who has proven that he's built a team from the ground up. That's why I wanted Mike Vrabel, like when he joined the Titans, although that wasn't necessarily from the ground up because they did find a quarterback and they did find maybe this generation's best running back. Saquon Barkley's close to it, but Derrick Henry has been this generation's best running back. So they had those pieces in place, but they do need someone who has the experience of starting a culture and building that culture. And the Raiders really are at ground zero right now, if that's the right phrase to use. Like they are at square one. They have a lot of pieces that they need to find. And I do feel bad for Max Crosby. I do worry about that if they don't manage to fix some things, because you're seeing him do a lot of media, getting his face out there, getting his voice out there.
Yeah, what was he on, NFL Game Day morning?
I think he was on there like a couple of days in a row, before and after the games. Like if you don't improve and improve fast, like this could turn ugly with the guy who you're hoping to be a franchise player. Now they're going to have their conversations and they're probably going to guarantee him whatever he wants because it's Max Crosby. He's the face of the team. But we have also seen that these players are getting more and more power as far as their player movement. So I am pretty concerned about that depending on what they do next.
I hear you on that one, but were you going in a direction as far as who you wanted to see be the head coach?
I mean, if Pete Carroll's out there and available, I could deal with it. That's
where I thought you were going, because you're talking about the culture. And I'm thinking about the only guy that could really build a culture right now. And yeah, Mike Vrabel was that guy. Ben Johnson was appealing because he's the best play caller on the market as far as head coaches.
Supposedly a great communicator of what he wants to.
Yes.
That was a big thing.
So, yeah, the rumor is now Pete Carroll might be in the second running to be the head coach of the Raiders. And the thing you think of instantly is he's 72 years old. So how long is he going to do this for? Now, there's other names out there too. Like Brian Flores has a connection to Tom Brady, so that might be appealing. But he's got to do things very differently than what he did in Miami. And I think that Tua Tagovailoa kind of I can't really say, like, I've been in some bad situations at work and where it's unbearable to, like the guy, you're working with. I'm not saying this about anybody individually, but like when you're in a situation where someone's just beating you down every day, it's like, damn, how can I, go on? And Tua, I haven't been in his shoes. I don't know what that situation was like with Brian Flores. But for him to kind of keep complaining about it, like he did on, was it the Dan Le Batard podcast?
Yeah.
I thought it was a little too much. Like, hey, you're in a good situation now. You got Mike McDaniel. But yeah, from what everyone else has said about Brian Flores, like even like Ryan Fitzpatrick on his podcast with Andrew Whitworth was like, he burned every bridge that he had in Miami. He really can't, like, I don't know what assistant coaches he's going to have. He was way too aggressive in his coaching. So he may have to temper that back a little bit. But yeah, if Brian Flores is an option, I would be down for that. And then there's Cliff Kingsbury, who now looks kind of more appealing. No? Why not?
He's the quintessential great offensive coordinator, not great head coach.
But that could be Ben Johnson too.
It could be, but Cliff Kingsbury did not have a great history with players in the first place.
Yeah, well, let me say that if it is Cliff Kingsbury, and Tom Brady does know him from the Patriot days where he was a backup, Cliff Kingsbury has to be more of a leader of men. And if you let Kyler Murray walk all over you, then that's a bad situation. So I wouldn't mind it as far as like play calling and everything. And if they pair him up with Shador, that may not be bad. But yeah, if you want to establish a culture, yeah, then Pete Carroll should be the guy. And I think he would be very interested in the job. He'd be extremely positive, and it probably would be like he's a Bay Area guy, and I know he grew up idolizing John Madden, so that might be a dream job for him. That being said, like I said before, he is 72 years old. So you have to come up with a succession plan where someone younger takes over. And 49er fans should be interested in this. I did talk to your boy Q today. Q Myers was on with us on Dirty Work. And while everybody in the chat was complaining about, oh, it's a Raider interview, what the hell are you doing, Derek? I wanted to know about Robert Saleh and how the Raiders are interested in Robert Saleh, because he did interview for that job. He is getting a second interview with the Jacksonville Jaguars. But from what everyone says, and Rick Stroud, who's pretty connected with Tampa Bay Buccaneers, he believes that the Buccaneers are bracing for Liam Cohen to get that job with the Jaguars. So that would leave, Robert Saleh maybe out on that one. He did interview for the Cowboys job. But what if the Raiders did go Robert Saleh as head coach? I wouldn't hate that. I mean, he still has to work on some things as a head coach, but you have an experienced guy. It didn't go well in New York, but maybe that was just because of the hoopla with Aaron Rodgers. But I did think of this too. Pete Carroll and him have a relationship, and Q brought this up. What if you had it set up where Robert Saleh is going to take over for Pete Carroll in 3 years or less than that?
Yeah, but are they going to offer him the most money in all of the land, Derek?
I did love that report from Matt Barrows. Yeah, supposedly the Niners are going to offer Robert Saleh all the most money in all of the land when it comes to defensive coordinator. So that would be like $4.5 million.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it feels like Robert Saleh to the 49ers is almost a done deal. Like, I know these head coaching interviews are there, but I think he is going to be D coordinator of for Kyle Shanahan, because at the end of the day, he may have a relationship with Pete Carroll, but ultimately he has a better relationship, I think, with the 49ers, with Shanahan, with John Lynch. He's had more success there. I would question it a little bit, because he did have success when they had one of the most ferocious defensive lines that we have seen in quite some time. Like if you looked at that 2019 defensive line for the 49ers, you'd probably rank it like right up there with the top in the past decade. Like there's been quite a few good ones, but yeah, I mean, you'd probably put like the 2022 Eagles defensive line, the 2019 49ers, you probably put.
No, but it's up there, man. It is.
It's definitely is. So he had a lot of talent just to run that same 4-3 scheme. I'd be interested to see if he could use that same talent, because that was his defense that he kind of established in the first place, was that 4-3. We're only going to rush with 4. We're not going to blitz too much. He did that same thing with the Jets and kind of came back to bite him, I guess, this year, because their defense wasn't nearly as good as anyone expected. But
they definitely took a slide though once he was fired.
Yeah, that's true. So I wouldn't mind that, but I'm kind of in the camp that he's going to be a 49er. What about Todd Monken? Monken land.
Todd Monken, what is he, 58?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's one of the older offensive coordinators in the league right now. He's not one of those young, innovators. He did a very good job with Lamar Jackson this year. That wouldn't be bad to pair him up with Shador if that is the move. I have no idea if they're going to be able to get him. I think at this point
he's the next kind of. I think there's a couple of people who are on the Todd Monken to the Raiders train, but who knows anymore.
I wouldn't be upset with Pete Carroll, because I do think you need to establish a culture, and he would have a lot of, former assistants that'd be willing to come and join him again. But the thing you have to establish is who's taking over for Pete in a matter of 2 to 3 years.
Yeah.
Because there has to be that plan.
Yeah. But at the he not only culture builder, but he'd be a much levels above Antonio Pierce as an in-game head coach.
Oh,
as
no
a guy
doubt.
Calling timeouts, working the clock, 2-minute drills, knowing how to organize practices, different things like that.
Yeah, no, I think he would be, it's night and day with him when it comes to Antonio Pierce. But, and Ernie one brings up Gruden. Yeah, I mean, that's still on the table. And Steven doesn't want it, but I don't know, man. I do think that, I mean, it would kind of look bad. Like if the Raiders just ran out of options, they go back to Gruden. Like, would that be like a good thing where it's like, yeah, we got Gruden back, or was it like, ah, shit, we got Gruden back?
I don't think he has the patience. I don't think he has the patience to work with the Raiders. I don't think I think what you would be like,
he would take any job at this point, man.
He would take it, but I don't think he'd be very patient with the players. I don't think the team's that good, as good as constructed. And maybe if they get a rookie quarterback, he would have patience with that guy. But I'm watching the video resurfaced today of him and Chris Sims. X spot, Z spot, looky. He's already his.
God damn it, Chris!
His voice is gone already. Like 32Y XZ spot. His voice was already gone because he was yelling so much. But I could just picture him.
You're like my wife when she gets lost in space.
He would not have the patience, I think, to work with the Raiders and the players that they have on that roster currently.
I don't know about that, man. I think that Gruden was more than patient, tearing up the Raiders playoff team from 2016, little by little, and then he built it into his own that was starting to get going, and then the email surfaced. I don't know about that one, but yeah, there's options out there. I think right now the best option, I can't believe I'm saying this because I didn't think it was a good option at the beginning. Alon brought his name up initially. Yeah, I think right now the best option probably would be Pete Carroll. And it sounds like John Spytek, which is a hilarious name considering he worked with Tom Brady.
We rep the same Spytek.
Yep. Tom knew him from Tampa Bay. So, yeah, it sounds like that's going to be the GM. But who knows these days? I thought everything was set up with Ben Johnson. So, who knows? And as far as the 49ers and Robert Saleh and the search for the defensive coordinator position, yeah, I think at this point, everything's kind of set up. Talked to Matt Mayoka today. I asked him why they didn't interview more guys. It was just Robert Saleh and Deshae Townsend and Brandon Staley. And they made calls, but nothing ever, materialized into sitting down and doing an in-person interview. And some of these guys already knew where they wanted to go. Like Jeff Ulbrich wanted to go to Atlanta. Lou Anarumo wanted to go to the Colts, and it sounds like the Cincinnati Bengals are going to hire Notre Dame's DC Al Wooden. So yeah, and who else got hired DC wise? Yeah, it sounds like Ben Johnson's going to pair up with Dennis Allen, which is not bad. I think that's actually pretty good. So the only guy that's available right now that got fired as far as a head coach this past season is Matt Eberflus. So, if the Niners don't end up with Robert Saleh, they could go Eberflus. But, I did ask Matt, like, would Saleh ever want to join Pete Carroll in that way? And he's like, I don't think a guy that interviews for a head coaching job would be like, hey, you didn't get the job, but are you willing to be DC and head coach in waiting? And my thing is, like, tonight, the Cowboys do things a little differently. Brian Schottenheimer is being interviewed not only as head coach but offensive coordinator to see if he's willing to work with Kellen Moore. And I guess he's putting it out there. I'm cool being the OC for Kellen Moore, but I have to call the plays, which could be a dangerous thing where I'm sure Kellen Moore wants to be the one to call the plays. So yeah, it sounds like, but I'm just saying, like, just as far as like Robert Saleh, yeah, I hear you that he's tight with Kyle Shanahan, has more ties to the 49ers, but he did kind of break into the NFL by coaching with Pete Carroll. So,
well, Derek, but the Niners have offered him all the money in the land, his finest fur, your finest wine,
all the silver.
Mead made from a sheep that's been traveling with a shaman across the Sahara Desert. All the money in the land.
All of King Midas's silver, I tell you. Jed York is willing to give it to Robert Saleh. Yeah, I think at the end of the day, Robert Saleh is going to take that gig. I do.
In all the land.
Yeah.
The shit is King Arthur.
No disrespect. I love Matt Barrows, but that line is just funny to me.
Of course. All the land.
And all of the land. But yeah, I do think that Saleh ends up with the 49ers, and it sounds like they kind of expected to. That's why they didn't widen the search up. I will say, it does sound interesting that they wanted Nick Sorensen to interview for the special teams coordinator position, and he's willing to do it, but he's not guaranteed the job either. Like Mike Silver saying he doesn't anticipate Sorensen getting the job, which would be like, you're not good enough to be DC. You're not good enough to be special teams coordinator. So what the hell are you doing here? And then the whole rigmarole they have to go through with Clay Kubiak. I mean, Kyle probably shouldn't have said we were elevating Clay Kubiak before he knew all of the hurdles he had to jump through. So they have to interview one more minority coach, and then they can hire Clay Kubiak, which is just stupid.
This, whether it's the Jordan Mason thing from early in the season, what he revealed in the post game, whether it's Fred Warner revealing that he was playing with a fractured ankle, even though they didn't put him on the injury report. This whole Clay Kubiak thing, I am fully convinced that the 49ers did not understand that overtime rule in the Super Bowl. Fully convinced.
Just based off of that?
Because they don't know the rules.
No,
these little NFL rules. They don't care to know them because Kyle Shanahan is better than most coaches, and he doesn't need to focus on the rules. He doesn't need to care about them.
I disagree on that one.
Do you?
I think that they just didn't know that they had to do that. It's not so much the rules, Steven. It's that they didn't know that they could the job wasn't posted. There is no offensive coordinator for the 49ers currently. So they thought they could just elevate somebody, but they didn't know about the Rooney Rule process, which I don't know what the deal was a couple of years ago with Mike McDaniel.
Gee, the Rooney Rule. I'm glad that's not known. Everyone knows the Rooney Rule that you got to satisfy
but not for everybody, not for every position.
I'm fully convinced, Eric,
that they had no idea about the rules for overtime.
They didn't know that they could have kicked off, and that would have given them a more significant advantage. Instead, they thought they'd score a touchdown, and I guarantee it, if they scored a touchdown, they thought they would have won the game. They thought they would have won the Super Bowl. Where's the confetti? Oh, I don't know. The Chiefs just have another chance to score.
Yeah, you don't think that Kyle Shanahan got that email from the league office about the rule change?
I don't read emails and stuff.
What's this whole thing about you making Kyle out to be like some arrogant guy now?
Well, he is, kind of. Is he not?
Yeah, I mean, all coaches are.
Sure. but it feels like Shanahan is more than others.
Yeah,
It's credit. I think it's warranted.
He's my best friend. He's my best friend, Stephen. I can't say that about him now.
He is. Yeah, that's true. Sorry. I apologize.
He's my best friend and stuff.
Yeah,
but yeah, I think they were well aware of the rules. It's just that yeah, they probably should have been briefed on the whole Rooney Rule process a little bit better.
I also have that fresh in my mind because I just watched the Chiefs America's Game thing on NFL Films from 2023.
God, you watching that one?
I did watch that one, and because I realized I hadn't seen it, and good God, Patrick Mahomes running back to the sideline saying, "They want to receive. They want to receive.
Yeah,
we'll kick, I guess."
I gotta say, the newer America's Games not as well done as the ones in the past.
No, they're lazy.
They are extremely lazy. NFL Films now is too, like, let's put some slow-mo shots with some non-copyright music that just sounds like shit.
Yeah, it wasn't that great. It wasn't. Yeah. It wasn't an interesting one. Past ones are interesting though. I'm on the 74 Steelers.
Ooh, with Lynn Swann?
No, it's Mean Joe Green.
Ah,
forgot who the other one talking is.
Elsie Greenwood?
I don't know.
Yeah, Terry Bradshaw is not in any of the America's Games.
No.
Because he had a falling out with the Steelers.
The one that got me was, oh God, forgive me if I don't remember his last name. I think it's Manny Fernandez.
Yeah.
72 or 73 Dolphins team.
72 Dolphins, yeah.
But he had a story that with Larry Zonka, they pulled a prank on Don Shula because Manny Fernandez loved the Everglades and lived in the Everglades. And they like put a whole ass gator in his office, like an entire alligator. Like, what?
His mouth was taped up. It was fine.
My God, dude, these guys are crazy.
Yeah, dude.
Anyway,
have you watched all the Raider ones?
I think I have, yeah.
So you see the 76 one with my guy Phil Villapiano?
Bill Filippiano, yeah, he's the best.
I met that guy a few times. He's a hoot. But the best part of that whole thing where he's on the practice field and there's like, I thought there was some guy, some player's dad talking to me from the distance, just yelling at me the whole time. So I go to my position coach, Frank, and I say, "Get him away from me, Frank. Get him away from me." And he's like, "Hey, Phil, that's your boss. That's Al Davis." He goes, "Oh, shit. I didn't realize that. Oh." Just crazy stuff like that. Okay, let's review the divisional playoff weekend, and let's do it in chronological order. Chiefs beat the Texans 23-14 with a little help from a safety at the end to have that 9.5 point cover go in for the Texans.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah, I know.
So I was at a party that day, and Jesse's brother and his friends all have these all have this little bet going. They all like put money in and they all go on the same bet. And they had the Texans -9, I think. Or no, they had the Chiefs -9. And when that game was at 11 and the safety happened, I wasn't even paying attention. And then and then you just hear so much swearing. Oh my fucking God! Like, I knew they were gonna do this shit, man. I know it. And that it was so good. Ended up being a push, but still lost out on some money.
Yeah. But yeah, in the end, the Texans do the safety at the end when there was no time remaining. And I know everyone's going to complain about the referees and how they call this game and the officiating, and they're there to help the Chiefs. Believe me, I don't want to see the Chiefs win again. I don't want to see three-peat. I don't want to see like Peter Schrager go on Good Morning Football and explain to us why we should all love this, why it's good for history. Please. Like, yeah, okay, it's cool for Chiefs fans and for NFL historians, but for those that hate the Chiefs, who gives a fuck? I want to see someone new at this point. Mahomes has all of his rings, so who cares?
Derek, so I tweeted this out as a promo for the show. Was more hoping to get some engagement. I don't know if that worked or not. But I'm telling you, just pick the Chiefs to win the Super Bowl. Makes everything a lot easier to deal with. Like, you have the expectation, you know this is going to happen. Everyone blaming the refs. What? This isn't anything new. Refs keep doing this. Refs keep doing this. Yeah, they do. So expect it. It's not like this is unexpected. Expect the refs to help the Chiefs. Expect Mahomes to bend the rules a little bit so that he gets roughing the passer called. And also expect Steve Spagnuolo to call a damn good game. Like, that's also another thing too. Like, they got to CJ Stroud 8 times.
Yeah.
If you expect it from the Chiefs, it's a lot easier. I'm picking them to win from here on out because here's the thing. I figured it out, Derek. I figured it out.
By all means, sir.
This is just much better on your mental health. It's the perfect take. You think the Chiefs are going to win the Super Bowl. I picked them to win the Super Bowl because if they do, you expected it. You knew this was going to happen. But if they don't, then the Chiefs end up losing. You may be wrong, but that is totally worth being wrong about. And you're home free. It is so much easier on the soul, the mind, the body, and the soul. Because, the Chiefs can make you punch your fist through a wall sometimes.
No, I hear you on that one, man.
It's easier with everything, Derek. It's the easy way to go.
And there's nothing wrong with being wrong. Too, I've realized in the short amount of time I've been a radio host. There's
not at all.
There's nothing wrong with being wrong, and I don't mind admitting that I'm wrong. I'm wrong all the time. I don't care.
I'd love to be wrong about this.
Yes,
but it's just you got to deal with it. Where did I point for the soul, Ernie? Ernie too. Where did I point? The soul, I guess, in here. I'm not going to do the Elon Musk in here.
Yeah, be careful with that one. Good Lord, man. What the hell's going on with our world? Anyway, as far as the Chiefs, I mean, defensively, they have a great game plan. Steve Spagnuolo is doing his thing, as he always does. And this is what Travis Kelce does in the playoffs. He's running around looking slow as shit, but no one can tackle him. I don't know what the hell's going on out there.
It's crazy. He just still manages to get wide open every game. You know why? It's because he improvises. Like, he's got to be one of the few, because they have such a great connection, where he could just run whatever route he wants.
Yeah.
Like, with all these teams, it's so calculated. It's so strategic. No, you got to be there. Like, everyone's using the 49ers as an example this weekend because the Lions ended up losing. I know we'll get to that. But with the anticipatory throws, like, there's no such thing as anticipatory throws with Kelce and Mahomes. They just read and react to each other. And for whatever reason, not whatever reason, Kelce's also a very instinctual player, very intelligent player, high IQ. He knows when a blitz is coming. I mean, just watch that game back and you'll see that the Texans tried pulling off like a safety blitz or a corner blitz, and Kelce finds a way to exploit it, and Mahomes is just ready whenever just to let it rip and get it to him when he's wide open.
Yeah, I mean, the relationship was shown when on that touchdown where Mahomes is falling down, he just throws the ball in the middle of the end zone, and there's Travis Kelce with the catch. So, yeah, I mean, it was, I never thought the Texans were going to win this game because I just thought that going into the game, yes, they were very good against the Chargers, but for the most part, their offense has been depleted for most of the year, and I think that, without having Stephon Diggs and Tank Dell, you're missing the explosiveness in your wide receiving core. Nico Collins can make plays for you. He's a big-bodied receiver, but at the end of the day, they ran the ball pretty well, but it was CJ Stroud just, kind of like Sam Darnold against the Rams, just kind of seeing ghosts, not seeing the open man in front of him. We saw that a lot this weekend. Same thing with Jalen Hurts, I thought, a little bit, but I know people Troy Aikman was up in arms about the penalties, and I would tell him he needs to calm down too, because this is the first time you've ever seen a Chief game before. And yes, it's the playoffs. You don't want to see that shit. But the first penalty, the one that Will Anderson had where he hit Patrick Mahomes high, I thought that was kind of ticky-tacky. It wasn't really like he busted him in the head or anything. It was just like he hit him high, and you're not allowed to do that. I didn't care for that penalty. The second one where they barely hit him on the helmet, yeah, I hear you. It was Henry To'oTo'o and another, I think it was Danico Autry. They did hit him on the helmet. So, And at the end of the day, is it ticky-tacky and bullshit with these calls? Absolutely. But did it make the Texans lose the game? No, not at all. The Texans lost this game because they couldn't protect C.J. Stroud. Their kicker missed a PAT and got one blocked. Yeah, they just weren't ready to play. They're not as good as the Chiefs right now, and the Chiefs advanced to the 7th straight AFC Championship game. This was probably the least interesting game out of all of them this weekend, in my opinion.
We got penalties. We got a player shoving a special teams coordinator.
Yeah.
Heads are falling off.
Yeah, that was interesting. Very early on in that game. That's where I was like, God, the Texans are unraveling here already. And I saw like Jordan Schultz tweet out, like, this happens all the time. It's the heat of passion of a game. And I'm like, yeah, but not that early on. And that was a heavy shove. Like,
yeah, Jordan Schultz, longtime NFL reporter.
Yeah, seriously. God. All right, moving on to the next game. The Commies,
That's
the Manders.
Such a hater thing to say.
What, Schultz?
Yeah.
You know, I would love. I don't know if we'll ever do this, but we're gonna get Mike Silver on sometime during free agency. I would love to hear what NFL insiders think of Jordan Schultz, because I think a lot of them are like, "Who is this guy?"
Right.
Yeah. Anyway,
Draymond Green.
Yeah, was it a football podcast with Draymond Green?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, the Commanders, the Manders, the Commies, whatever you want to call them, they go into Detroit and they kick their ass. Like I came on and my bold prediction was the Detroit Lions are not going to punt once in this game. Sure enough, 3-and-out to start the game. I was like, ah, shit. But dude, Jaden Daniels, man, he's got the it factor. God, you can see why the Raiders wanted to trade up to get him, or maybe they didn't. I don't know it depends on what Adam Schefter says or the beat writers say, but yeah, he's a difference maker. He is probably the most poised rookie I've seen in quite some time, honestly. Like C.J. Stroud even looked flustered at times last year. Ben Roethlisberger, that playoff game where he threw 3 interceptions to the Patriots. Yeah, Jaden Daniels, like I'm still waiting for him to get rattled in a game to the point where he throws 4 interceptions, and that just doesn't happen. And as far as the Lions, Jared Goff just had a bad game. Bottom line, that pick 6 was awful. He didn't get any Mahomes treatment, by the way, where he got rattled on that return. The interception he threw right before half, that was just a great play by the corner. The Jameson Williams interception, you could say like, Ben Johnson, what the hell are you doing with that play call? But
I did immediately.
But also Jameson Williams can be like, that's not a good throw right now. I need to keep running. Sure. That's what Antoine Randall L was telling him. But we knew this was going to.
Antoine Randall L shouldn't have thrown that pass.
Yeah, what was his famous thing? Antoine Randall L.
Antoine Randall L. Institute University.
Yeah. But we knew this was going to happen eventually. Like, I didn't like in Jesse's father's playoff pool.
Yeah.
Tony asked me, "Do I want to do that again?" And I did. And I figured I don't think the Lions are going to go to the Super Bowl. I picked the Eagles because I just eventually, yes, the Lions looked really good against the Minnesota Vikings, but that was blitzing Sam Darnold, who's easily blitzable. Jaden Daniels wasn't phased at all. When he was getting blitzed, he threw a screen pass to Terry McLaurin. He took it the rest of the way. So as far as the Lions defense, they were depleted and they, lost. Who went out? Amick Robertson went out in that game with a broken arm. Just another guy in their secondary. They lost Carlton Davis. They lost Aiden Hutchinson. I thought that maybe they could get by with Zadarius Smith getting sacks and Kirby Joseph getting interceptions, and there never were opportunities for that. They were just lost. It was a mix of bad blitzes and just not knowing what to do on defense.
Yeah.
And, in the end, the Commanders won. They were the better team. Before I let you talk, Steven, just real quick, I want to say this. I know we're all going to be sad for Dan Campbell, and he's going to cry in the post game. And I know it's tough. And he's like, oh, everybody's body's beat to shit. It's my fault. It's my fault. Yes, you want to hear a leader of men say that. However, for him not to either be aware or to not just flat out not call the timeout when the Commanders were going for it on a 4th and 2, and there were 12 men on the field, and the Lions' entire defensive staff saw it and no one did anything, That's egregious. If your whole point is, well, I want to save the timeouts, save the points, sir. You were down 38-28. If they score, the game is over. If you stop them, you have a chance. I thought that was a terrible error on his part.
It was. It was, and he's always had those issues, though. But I thought the drive before, I thought that drive in general, though, I thought that was the most impressive part of the game. I think Dan Campbell was just at a loss because normally, like in those situations in the second half, like when you got a team like the Lions with their high-powered offense, when you punt to open the half and then you stroll 91 yards downfield. I think it was 91 yards downfield to score a touchdown. And then the Commanders are responding with a drive that ended up being, I think, like 15 plays and obviously resulting in a touchdown. I think Dan Campbell was just flustered. I think he was shook in that moment because you're absolutely right. And that should be a call that any head coach should have seen. Tom Brady saw it. Tom Brady was yelling it. 12 men on the field, 12 men on the field.
It's his best moment as a broadcaster so far.
And he didn't. So I think the Commanders had him shook. And I think that's credit to the Commanders with Jaden Daniels, Cliff Kingsbury, and all the rest, man. Like a truly impressive performance to have that kind of guy shook. And Derek, I found it.
And Randall, Indiana University, Chris.
It's great.
One more time. Go on. Let's it.
Antoine Randall, Indiana University.
Oh yeah.
Antoine Randall. Why the hell did Jameson wants to throw that ball? And I'll give credit where credit is due to Sam Eagle, Dan Quinn. He may be like a bird-like man, but he definitely out Dan Campbelled for going forward on fourth down. Like I was wondering that going into the game, I was like, the Lions are the better team. And maybe make the argument that Jaden Daniels is the better quarterback over Jared Goff. But one thing I thought about was Dan Quinn is the better coach to Dan Campbell, I think. Like there was a moment where both coaches were getting interviewed before the game, and Dan Quinn looked focused, had his backwards cap on. Dan Campbell is along the stands where the fans are, and he gets so distracted while he's talking to I think it was Aaron Andrews or maybe Tom Rinaldi, but he turns around, he's like, oh, what's going on, guys? He starts like jabbing up the fans before the game, and I was like, that's interesting from Dan Campbell. Not that he like lost focus or anything, but I don't know. It was interesting. Like Dan Quinn, where's the better Dan that day? And I know
Quinn's more established than Campbell is.
Yeah, he's been to the Super Bowl. I know he blew a 28-3 lead, but he got him there.
Right.
And he actually calls the defense.
And he did that to the greatest head coach and greatest quarterback of all time. Like,
yeah,
you got to give him a little bit of a break there. It's like we always talk about how they blew that lead. I know they blew that lead, but it's maybe the worst loss in Super Bowl history, damn near. But like, good God, man, it was to Tom Brady and Bill Belichick.
Yeah,
I don't think there's any question that Dan Quinn is a better head coach. You just needed to find the right team.
Yeah, definitely. So this does, and people are like Lions fans are like, oh, it's clear that Ben Johnson wasn't all in, man. He leaves 2 days later to go be the Chicago Bears head coach. That's how this process works, man. Like I even saw Belichick on McAfee be like, I don't like this whole thing now where you can interview right before a game for a playoff game. And like, Bill, that happened to you, man. Like you won the Super Bowl with Romeo Crennel and who was their offensive coordinator from back in the day that went to Notre Dame? I'm forgetting his name. But both guys got the jobs and left immediately, and then he had to retool. It's going to drive me crazy. What's that guy's name? You know what I'm talking about?
Charlie
Weiss. Yes.
Charlie Weiss.
Yep.
Big man.
But yeah, now this brings up, it seems like Ben Johnson's going to the Bears. It sounds like Aaron Glenn's going to have a choice between the Jets and the Saints. And now are the Lions kind of going to fall back to reality a little bit? And I think they have the talent. It's just it could be interesting to see who Dan Campbell gets to replace those guys.
I don't think so, dude. I think they're pretty well set. I think they've known this was coming since last year. So like from what I read, I've heard this a lot about how the Lions aren't going to be the same team because they're going to be missing out on their 2 coordinators. Well, they've been getting coordinators ready, I think. And as far as I know, their linebackers coach, or as far as I know, as far as I've read, the linebackers coach, Kelvin Shepard, they've been like grooming him basically to become the defensive coordinator. So he's next.
I've read that he's going to join Aaron Glenn in the next spot.
Well, then they'd be screwed in that situation. And the other is the passing game coordinator, Tanner Engstrand.
Yes.
I think he's and he would be elevated to offensive coordinator. So it seems they've at least got guys internally. But if that doesn't work with them, then I don't know what their next course of action would be. Yeah,
Tanner Engstrand actually was a Jim Harbaugh guy. He supposedly wanted him with the Chargers, and he wanted to stay with the Lions this year. Or supposedly, that was a rumor a little bit. I don't know if that's actually true or not. That's just what like Charger fans were tweeting about. But so the commies advance, and that led to an interesting matchup between the Rams and Eagles the next day. And before we do that, Steven, got to own up a little bit to a hot sauce penalty.
All right, fine. Hang on. Oh, no. Oh, God.
Oh, the Bisquick's falling down?
No.
That would be hilarious if Pop's secret and everything behind you just fell.
We're okay.
Okay.
We're fine.
All right. While you're getting ready, I'll give my take on the Rams-Eagles. It was a fun snow game. It was kind of reminiscent. It wasn't this crazy of snow, but it kind of reminded me of, remember that Lions-Eagles game from years ago, like 10 years ago, where the image I remember is LaShawn McCoy running all over the field and Calvin Johnson have like a face mask full of snow.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, this kind of reminded me of that a little bit. And, they ran on the Rams earlier in the season. They did it again. Jalen Hurts gets a 44-yard touchdown run. Saquon gets a long touchdown run. He should have iced the game with a 78-yard touchdown run. But Jalen Hurts was frazzled in this game. I was way more impressed with Matthew Stafford. I don't know how many games he's thrown in the snow. He's usually been a dome quarterback for most of his career. But besides the 4th down throw, which he just got lost in the snow, he didn't know where he was throwing, Jalen Hurts, he, like, for a guy that's pretty good at eluding pressure, man, the Rams, they set the record for back-to-back games with sacks. They have 16. And they lost this game, but the defense did their job. Like Jared Verse and all these guys the Rams have on the defensive line, they're going to be a problem for the 49ers. I can tell you that. I don't know if Matthew Stafford, what his long-term future is with the Rams or Cooper Kupp. I think he's gone this upcoming free agency, but he's not a free agent, but he could get traded. I was kind of just disappointed in the passing game once again. I know it was snowing, but Jalen Hurts, man, you got to be better when there's pressure on you. And he may have taken a tumble with his ankle. And you see that post-game the post-game interview he did?
Yeah.
He was on something. He was on some painkillers.
Yeah, that was Aaron Rodgers after that win against the Bears in 2018.
Yeah, I remember that.
Same thing.
Yeah. But
he was definitely he was like he was just giggling and didn't want to give anything on his knee. Just said, I was able to play today, and they gave some Dr. Seuss sounding quote and stole that from a Twitter user.
But yeah, just as far as the Eagles, out of anybody in the playoffs right now, I will say just because of 2 performances, they play the best defense out of anybody I see right now. Zach Bond is amazing, and the pass rush they're able to get with Jalen Carter and everybody else, the way they cover, like the Cooper on Cooper crime of the white slot guy going against the white nickelback. And Quinyon Mitchell, it sounds like he will be good to go for the NFC Championship game. They missed him for the rest of that game. But they should have won the game when Saquon, ran the touchdown in. They didn't get the PAT. You and I were texting about it. They were running into a brick wall with Saquon at one point. But then Jalen Hurts, like, come on, man, just get the ball out of your hands or do something. Like, he gets sacked again. Like,
or run a designed run with Saquon on second.
Yeah. if they do lose, it's because Jalen Hurts is not doing enough in these playoffs. Like he's just been kind of that guy that gets credit for a group project at this point. It's easy to hand off to Saquon Barkley. If they are going to win the Super Bowl, they could get by with just running with Saquon against the Commanders. But if they are going to win the Super Bowl, they have to establish inner excellence with A.J. Brown.
Sure. But also with Jalen Hurts, though, let's not forget that he still makes an impact with his legs. Like we can't forget that. Sure, he's been terrible throwing, for barely even 140 yards any game of this postseason, really towards the latter half of this season. But it doesn't matter when they got a run game and a defense that they're playing. I mean, did you see number 69 pulling out? Whoo-wee. Old Dick, number 69.
Yeah.
I saw it. Pulling out to the outside. All right, you ready for this?
Let's do it.
All right, Derek. So I got a little question.
Is that a bugle?
Corn chip.
Nice. Frito?
Trader Joe's corn chip.
Oh. Burrito?
Ha. Organic, dude. I can't recommend these things enough. They got great nutrition facts.
I need to go to
dude.
Trader Joe's more.
I'm telling you. Organic corn chip dippers.
That actually looks pretty good.
No sponsors. Look at the nutrition facts on this, dude.
It's hard to see.
Barely any sodium or quite a bit of fiber. And
God knows I need enough fiber in my diet.
A little bit total fat. But at the end of the day, compared to normal corn chips, those things aren't too bad.
Well, how do you feel about popcorners?
I'm good with popcorners.
Yeah, popcorners are good.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I like them just because of the taste or because I figured out about them last year during the Super Bowl because of Breaking Bad.
Now, I did that sick thing where I compare a playoff team to my own team. And when I'm watching a guy like Jared Verse, right? When I'm watching him just wreck the game, this is why I thought the Raiders needed more out of Tyree Wilson as a 7th overall pick. I didn't expect him to be Jared Verse level, but I do think that kind of just shows where the Raiders are at with their drafting because they're not getting instant impact players. Tyree Wilson has gotten better, but they haven't had time for that. Anyway, I couldn't get that out of my head when I was watching Jared Verse, but him and Kobe Turner were just amazing, sensational.
Well, not only that, Stephen, but the Raiders could have had Jalen Carter. They took Tyree Wilson right before him.
Well, that was the funny thing, though. Not really funny, but my favorite exchange on Twitter
is ha funny, not he.
My favorite exchange on Twitter. God, can you believe how insane it was that Jalen Carter fell to the Eagles in that draft? Wasn't that insane? You remember what he did?
Yeah, I remember.
Do you remember what he did? Like it's not funny, but to just say it's insane that he dropped in the draft. He didn't just drop in the draft.
It wasn't like a drug thing. He went, what was it? He got into a car accident and the guy he was driving the car with, his teammate died.
Correct. And it was in the other car. And he was involved in the race. And they came up with all sorts of excuses. Yet we just completely forgot about that.
We did indeed forget about that.
So it's just like, it's not insane to think that he dropped to the Eagles.
Speaking of drafting.
They did freaking, they got something out of him in these playoffs, that's for sure.
No, they did. Speaking of drafting, remember when you brought up, did the Raiders draft the wrong Byron Young?
Yeah.
I asked you about that. He got a text from Dave Ziegler after he went on ESPN and said that. And he goes, do you honestly believe I drafted the wrong Byron Young? And Q was like, well, I kind of speculated everything. He was like, come on, dude, give me more credit than that. So apparently that wasn't a thing.
That would have been a better excuse because you did draft the wrong Byron Young.
So you're not buying it?
No, I'm buying it. I'm buying that he drafted the right Byron Young, but he should have picked the other Byron Young.
Oh, okay, I hear you.
No, I think right now.
By the way, you handled that pretty well.
It's going.
It's creeping.
Mm-hmm. Look, I said going into this week that should the Lions lose to the Commanders and the Eagles beat the Rams, that the NFC runs through Philadelphia. And I still think that.
Yeah.
you mentioned that the Rams, what was it? Back-to-back games, 8 sacks or whatever.
The most, they had 9 against the Vikings and 7 against the Eagles, so they have the most of the 2-game span in the playoffs.
Well, I think the one stat that really counts was that Saquon just ran all over the Rams in both of their meetings, over 200 yards apiece. What did he look like against the Commanders this year, though? Do we know that?
He was good in both performances. I remember they had a hard time scoring the first time around on a Thursday night football game, and then he busted for a big run and they won. And then they had the 21-7 lead the second time around, but Jalen Hurts was hurt and Kenny Pickett was in that game, so they couldn't get the run game going once they stopped the run.
26 carries for 146 yards first game, 29 carries for 150 yards in the second game. 2 touchdowns in each. So
like I said, I'm not concerned about Jalen Hurts this week because, I think that the Commanders, they had a great defensive performance against the Lions, but I would, it's different in the Dome. I think that it'd be hard for them to replicate what they did a week ago.
Derek, let's get out in front of it now. Let's just do it. Let's get the cliche out right now. The Commanders,
cliche away, baby.
The Commanders, they're playing with house money, baby. They're playing with house money. How many times? That's what you get on Just Your Opinion, man. You get the early cliches out the way because at the end of the week, when they've stopped breaking down these games, stop breaking down the national championship, and they actually start picking, Commanders are playing with house money. Commanders got nothing to lose. I got Commanders beating the Eagles. Now the Eagles are probably going to win. Probably going to win. That's what you mean by that. Look, man.
It's just hard for a rookie quarterback to go to the Super Bowl.
I know. And it's I am.
But this guy plays better than being a rookie, honestly.
For sure. And I'd love to see him make it there. But I don't know if we're going to get another Super Bowl run like this from the Eagles with Saquon Barkley. I think this could be their best shot. You never know. Because they got a lot of free agents after this season, if I'm not mistaken. So
I think most of them are locked up, honestly. Well, really? Zach Bond's out there.
Was it them or was it the Rams who had a lot of free agents? It was probably the Rams. But I would rather see Saquon play at least until the Super Bowl. I think we're going to see a lot of Jaden Daniels in the future.
That's what I'm thinking too. But I'll still wait to make my pick. But yeah, I'm probably leaning Philly. And it's just hard to, when you're a rookie quarterback and you play an opponent 3 times, first time you're kind of spooked on it. Second time you're like, okay, I figured them out. Third time, Vic Fangio was like, okay, I got something for your ass. So we'll see.
I also like that the Raiders have inquired about the assistant general manager,
Lance Newmark,
from the Giants, the guy who was disgusted with Joe Sheen and the way that he was talking about Saquon.
Yeah.
All for it. Like that's partially why I want Saquon to go far too, is because of how he got treated over there in New York.
Yeah, I want to say his name is Brandon Brown. Mm-hmm. Is that Giants assistant GM? He was extremely impressive. He looked 10 times better than Joe Shane in the Hard Knock show.
Right. So I think that, did you hear that? Did you hear all the phlegm just covering up my mouth?
Yep, we all heard it, Steven.
So I'm happy for Saquon in that Joe Sheen just continues to look like an egghead. That clip lives rent-free, dude. And it's probably because I had to roll on the audio and play it on the air at KCBS. But that Hard Knocks promo clip where it's like, we're not paying $12 million for a 27-year-old running back. This is the year for Daniel.
Yeah. And somehow, some way, they're still employed. No, I mean, I think Brian Dable should be, but Joe Shane, oof.
Yeah.
Okay, lastly, this is probably the most entertaining game out of the whole weekend, and it lived up to the billing, in my opinion. Ravens-Bills. And right away, the Ravens go down and score with Rashad Bateman. You'll think like maybe they don't need Zay Flowers. But they did the Bills defense did a great job on Derrick Henry. He almost got 200 yards the last time. So my computer's freezing up on me. This time he holds him up. They hold him to 84 yards. And it's not like Josh Allen did anything spectacular in this game. He kind of had a Jalen Hurts type of game where he throws for 127 yards. No touchdowns, no interceptions, but he gets the 2 rushing touchdowns. And what's different this time around for him in the playoffs is he gets rushing yardage from James Cook, Ty Johnson, Ray Davis, and that's what they needed. Like it always baffled me that this team was set up to be a pass happy offense in September, in October, but when it really mattered, when they are in the confines of a Ralph Wilson Stadium, whatever they call it now, they can't run the football. And like that pass happy offense with Stephon Diggs and Gabe Davis wouldn't translate to the playoffs. So I'm glad they found the run game, and their defense played a lot better. A lot of self-inflicted wounds though with the Ravens. Like, did you think the same thing that I thought when you watched the Lamar Jackson interception? It was like a beautiful pass. It was almost like a Shyamalan twist where you watch him do it in real time. You're like, God, what a throw by! Oh, that was intercepted. Jesus, like it was so misleading. And then the fumble, the Lamar Jackson, he dropped the ball, recovers it, fumbles it again. If Von Miller's a younger man, he scores that touchdown
for sure.
And then Mark Andrews fumbles, and then of course everyone's making the Jackie Smith comparison. He's got to be the sickest man in America. Yeah, he's not going to have a easier 2-point conversion, but he's in the cold. It's tough. You can't really justify him dropping the ball, but it happens sometimes. So give credit to the Bills. I'm happy they won. At the same time, I think the Ravens beat themselves a little bit.
They did. And we could focus on the Mark Andrews drop, but I think the fact is, I think there's a couple of things to it. I can't say that play lost them the game when that play wasn't even going to win them the game in the first place.
Yeah.
He's going to tie it. Sure. Get 2 points, you're going to tie it. You don't know what's going to happen in overtime. But you can't say that lost them the game because it wasn't going to win them the game. And number two, I know this is what the Ravens do. And maybe this is a Todd Monken thing. I'm of the mind, and I know Mark Andrews was wide open, so it was a perfectly drawn up play. They clearly saw the coverage that they wanted. But I'm also of the mind, like, if you're going to lose, do it with the ball in the hands of your best players. Like, figure out a way to get Lamar into the end zone there. Derrick Henry running is almost too obvious, but I think you got to set up a play for Lamar to potentially get that in there. No one's expecting Mark Andrews, but there's a reason for that.
Well, I mean, they should be, though, man. He's got a lot of touchdowns this year.
Well, he's also dropped 3 of them in crucial points before this game.
Is that true?
Yeah. Yeah, they just keep going to him on the same play. It's how they lost, God, I forgot which games, but it's happened like 3.
The Cleveland game, definitely.
3 different times it's happened. I don't know. I get that he's open and you probably called the right play, but I'm just like, man, if you're going to lose, get a little more creative and try to get the ball in the hands of your playmakers and the guys that do this. And I really think you got to do that.
I hear you, but the play was there, and he should have executed. Sure. And yeah, the Bills could have easily lost this game. I will say this. I came away impressed more with Buffalo than I did Kansas City. And Kansas City had a great performance against the Texans, but for the Bills to right the ship of the last 2 years of failures, or 3 years actually, going back to them losing that shootout against the Chiefs in the divisional round, but the last 2 years getting, shit stomped by the Bengals and then losing a heartbreaker to the Chiefs. They stood tough. They won the game. Yeah, I give credit to the Bills. I thought they have the harder, matchup. And I know you're probably going with the Chiefs just because that's the safe thing to do right now.
Well, no, Derek, it's just easier on your mental health.
I hear you.
I'm telling you.
But
don't go in there thinking the Bills are going to
win. No one circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills. I got to root for the Bills. Come on.
Well, of course you can root for them, but just don't go in there with the expectation that they're going to win.
No, I don't want to see the Chiefs again, man. I don't.
I know you don't. No one wants to see them again. But just expect it. Expect it and accept it. I don't know. I know the saying is ignorance is bliss. Acceptance is bliss, Derek. Accept that the Chiefs are going to win because the refs will help them out. Patrick Mahomes will manipulate the rules. Steve Spagnuolo is going to call a terrific defense, and I think he has Josh Allen's number in the postseason. And I think he's going to watch the game film from this regular season and use that to his advantage. Just telling you, Derek. It makes it so much easier.
Yeah, I mean, we'll get into it more on Saturday when we do our next show this week. And it always is the case where Josh Allen beats Mahomes in the regular season and loses to him in the postseason. But you've been watching enough America's games where that sometimes changes the narrative. Like there's always that, like if you watch like the '02 Bucks or the 2006 Colts, they all talk about how the Patriots kicked our ass, the Eagles kicked our ass. And then all it took was just one day where it flipped. And then they were over the hump. I will say this. I think the Eagles are a damn good football team, but I think the winner of the Bills-Chiefs AFC Championship game will be your Super Bowl winner.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I could see that. I can't
unless
really
Jalen Hurts and Jalen Hurts might be better in a dome, like he was in that Super Bowl against the Chiefs. But unless Jalen Hurts drops back and throws for 300 yards in that game, we'll see. We'll talk about it more on Saturday. But
can I play a couple of favorite moments though from the Ravens and Bills here?
Sure.
Well, number one is Josh Allen. This one made me laugh because we've all been in this situation before.
Oh yeah.
Where we might clap a little early during a motivational speech. And if the people listening to this podcast, I'm sorry, you're not really going to be able, you might be able to hear it, but this is more for the viewers. Yeah, Josh Allen mistiming a clap. Gotta love it.
That's what the game comes down to, man, right? The ball and fundamentals. I know it's not fancy, but damn is it. Yeah.
Well, my thing is, why is he so eagerly waiting to clap?
Because it's Josh Allen, dude. He's goofy.
Was he on something too? Like Jalen Hurts was in the post game?
No, man. He's just high on life.
No, I know, but he's like so like, okay, he's gonna say something here. I'm gonna clap.
Yeah.
Like, it was just too eager. But it would have been hilarious if we saw the rest of that clip and Sean McDermott's like, yeah. So as I was saying, guys, before Josh rudely interrupted me, our team's like a plane. You know what I mean?
Oh God. Oh Jesus.
That's what the game comes down to, man, right? The ball and fundamentals. I know it's not fancy, but damn is it. Yeah.
He stopped on, but is it? If for some reason Josh Allen thinks he's done, that makes no sense to me.
There's also a couple of things with Lamar Jackson. I really was bothered by the headlines of his post-game interview. Mostly that was drawn out by like ESPN or TMZ or any of those national publications. But what the headline read with a lot of them was that he goes on some profanity-laced tirade and that the only part of his quote was, "I'm tired of this shit. We got to hang on to the ball," and all that. And I just think that totally discounted everything that he said at the beginning of the quote. So I want to play it on this pod just
your context, man.
Just your context, man. Yes, Derek, I love it. Just your context, man. When Lamar Jackson, like the real headline should have been Lamar Jackson takes accountability after a turnover heavy game or something. I don't know. I'm not a guy who makes headlines, but anyway, this was the real quote from Lamar.
Through a BS interception. It was 7-7 at the time. I believe they scored after that. Battle back, fumble, snap, trying to make something happen. Couldn't throw it. It was like a RPO play, so I couldn't really throw the ball to likely, the offensive line was down the field. So I was trying to make something happen. Tried to squeeze the ball, it slipped out my hand. Von Miller picked it up, got some yards. I think that led to points for them. So it's a team effort out there. He's been busting his behind, he making plays happen out there on that field for us. Came up short. And like I've been saying all season, every time we in situations like this, turnovers play a factor. Penalties play a factor. Tonight, the turnover can't happen. And that's why we lost the game. Because as you can see, we're moving the ball wonderfully. It's hold on to the ball. I'm sorry for my language. Annoying. I'm tired of
Yeah, so I just
sorry. ESPN categorized that as a profanity laced tirade.
All right, yeah. Let me pull up the TMZ quote because I got it right here. Yeah, Lamar Jackson unleashes expletive-laced rant after Bills loss. Quote, tired of this
stop
shit.
it.
You know what I mean?
It.
So I got really bothered by that.
That's the TMZ and social mediaification of taking something that is not what it is, but making it better for clicks.
Yeah, like Lamar laments turnovers. How about that? You know,
yeah, and initially, like I saw like Dov Kleiman or Ari Mirnoff, and they tweeted out the latter portion of that where he's like, just hang on to the fucking ball. And I didn't hear the first part of that where he chastises himself for saying or the interceptions that he threw. He's like, I got to throw a better ball. I threw a bad pick.
And listen to this.
That's uncalled for.
And listen to this, man. They got the mic'd up, I think, from Hard Knocks. With
this premiere tonight.
Yeah.
By 2.
It's all us, bro. We're a team, bro. We're a team. It's all us, bro. It ain't just you.
It's devastating.
Yeah. It's just
I
don't know, man. This guy's a freaking leader, and that's why I texted you after. Why I do feel bad for Lamar. Obviously, feel bad for Mark Andrews too because he just dropped the game-tying interception. And sure, he didn't mean to make those turnovers, but I did feel for Lamar after the end of that game. Like, not saying the Ravens should have won, but it's like, damn, this guy probably going to win his third MVP. I think this guy needs to go deeper into the playoffs. And I who cares how history will remember these guys, but I do want them to remember Lamar Jackson as a winner. Though you see a lot of comparisons right now to Peyton Manning and where he was at this stage of his career. So, if I'm not saying that they're going to be on the same trajectory, but I do think Lamar is going to win a Super Bowl someday. Like, this guy's really, really talented.
Yeah, maybe, but I also think about last year where they hosted the AFC Championship game and he threw a bad interception in the end zone when there was 3 defenders around Zay Flowers and Zay Flowers fumbling the ball in the end zone.
Yep.
I thought that was, and they held the Chiefs to 17 points. I thought that was as good a shot as they ever were going to have. I think in order for, we'll see about Sunday. I'm hoping the Bills go into Arrowhead. I think a lot of these teams need, that's why this is so important to get the number 1 seed. Like I saw Tabor Pepper tweet out kind of a lukewarm take. I think it's best to not be a team with the number 1 seed. I disagree because you want to have home field throughout the playoffs. You do. You don't want to travel. So it was just the idea.
Tabor Pepper said that?
Yeah. Where, for him, it's like, well, you guys went to the Super Bowl twice because you did have the number 1 seed.
That's what I'm saying. Like, what the hell are you talking about?
Yeah, it doesn't make quite come on, lock in, Tabor. I'm kidding. But yeah, I think
John Kondo.
Yeah. Oh man, John Kondo. I think that Lamar, he's a great player. It's just that we still need to see from him if he's able to beat Patrick Mahomes. The same deal with Josh Allen.
Yeah. And now we get to see one more game of Taylor Swift and Caitlin Clark in the same booth. And we get to watch Mad Dog Russo get really pissed off at it.
Why does he care?
I think it's all fake. It's all fabricated. It's all, he's doing his actor thing where he's just pretending to be pissed. I'm tired of seeing these guys in the same booth. I'm tired of seeing Caitlin Clark and Taylor Swift all in the same thing.
It's a quick cutaway. Who gives a shit? I mean,
it was very quick. They barely.
And she was there because she was a guest on the pod, and who doesn't love Taylor Swift and Caitlin Clark in the same room together?
She's also a longtime Chiefs fan.
Is she really?
Oh yeah, she's proven it. Like, she grew up a Chiefs fan. So
I saw I didn't listen to the episode on the podcast, but she kind of played it off like she didn't know a lot of football, and then she was rattling off stats and knew shit pretty well. I was like, oh. Look at Caitlin knowing her football.
Yeah, it's not like Timothy Chalamet, who just kind of fabricated all of his college football knowledge. Like, this was real football.
No, you know what? I think we give him a hard time because he's Timothy Chalamet. Timothy Chalamet, you would do. But he sounds like he's a pretty big sports fan.
Oh, he's a huge sports fan. But I don't think he is for college football.
Nah, probably not. Speaking of college football, did you watch it in the national championship game last night?
Yeah. Watched it in entirety.
In the words of Dante Whitner, those boys were hitting. Good for Dante Whitner and his guys. Yeah, Ohio State wins. Yeah, Notre Dame put up a fight in the end. I always thought that Ohio State was going to win that game, so good for them.
Yeah. We didn't. You know what we didn't get to with Lions and the Commanders?
What's that, Steven?
I actually like LiAngelo Ball's song, Tweaker. I like it.
I'm not gonna act like I know a ton about it, but I know that Copes did a parody of it. It's like it's a social media thing now where you get like people in the locker room doing it or something. I could be totally off on this.
Yes, and it was a big thing with the Lions, so they had LiAngelo perform. That was a huge mistake. That was terrible.
Wait, hold on. Sorry. LiAngelo Ball performed at halftime?
Yeah.
For the Lions?
Yeah, you didn't see it?
No.
You didn't see it? Oh, man. All right. Well, hang on. Lions. That might be interesting. Tweaker Lions. Could get some interesting stuff on that. All right, here we go. Yep. Tweaker Lions. I was actually hoping for like lions that were tweaking. That would have been a cool video.
I was not aware of this at all.
I might go watch that later. Yeah.
He's still currently on the Charlotte Hornets, right?
No.
Where's he now?
Rapping. He is now signed to a record label. I forgot which one.
Wait, who am I thinking of?
I don't know.
Oh, LaMelo?
Could be thinking Alonzo.
Yeah, whatever.
LiAngelo Ball is the guy who stole a bunch of stuff when he was playing in China.
That's right. And he was supposed to be the first overall pick, supposedly.
Yeah, where do you get? You got to deal with Def Jam. We're at $13 billion.
So he's like a legit rapper now.
He made 2 songs, and that one that got really popular because it did sound good, but if anyone listens to it, it is heavily produced. But hey, man, if it gets numbers, it gets numbers.
I guess, yeah. That's like it's not the same thing, but that's like. I don't know. Would Damian Lillard ever perform halftime for the Raiders? Now, that actually kind of be sweet.
That would be sick, but he actually has to like
the
Raiders.
Drop.
He actually has to like
drop of dimes.
He actually has to like the Raiders, though, because I think he hates them at this current time.
No, he's a bitter fan. He loves the Raiders.
He's exactly. He loves the Raiders, but he hates them at this time.
Yeah. All right. Before we get out of here, should we talk a little bit about the Baseball Hall of Fame voting?
Please.
Well, here's my thing on everything, Steven. Ichiro Suzuki, definitely a Hall of Famer, arguably the second best leadoff hitter of all time. Do I care that he wasn't voted in unanimously? I don't, because there's too much focus on that, and it's too much on percentages and everything. At the end of the day, if they're voted in, they're voted in. Sports writers are always going to have their vendettas against certain players, and I think it's ridiculous.
I think this take is ridiculous, but keep going.
How is it ridiculous?
Because unanimous Hall of Famer means something, Derek. Ichiro absolutely deserves.
But he's not going to get a sash where it says unanimously voted into the Hall of Fame. At the end of the day, he just gets not a gold jacket. I don't know what they get in the Hall of Fame, but like he gets his bust, and he gets, he'll go in as a Mariner. Who cares if every sports writer voted for him? Yes, because they're all stupid. I acknowledge they're stupid, Steven. I acknowledge that they're stupid.
I care. Because I grew up loving this guy, Derek, loving Ichiro. And he was unlike any hitter that the game's ever seen. And we know that he actually let up at points. He could have hit 35 home runs a year, his former teammates and coaches said, but he decided not to because he knew that getting base hits was more valuable for his team. He was the perfect player, the first Japanese Hall of Famer, 10-time All-Star, 10-time Gold Glove Award winner. Rookie of the Year and MVP in his first year in the league when he was 27 years old out of Japan. And oh, by the way, he had over 1,000 hits there in the Nippon Professional Baseball League as well. I just think he did so much to help change the sport internationally. And the fact that he's not unanimous, you may say it doesn't matter, but people know Mariano Rivera as the only unanimous Hall of Famer. Like, they know that. So I think it matters for Ichiro. And for people who were his biggest fans, it's a punch in the face to have one guy not vote him in. For what?
Yeah, but it's the same deal with Ken Griffey Jr. It's the same thing with Derek Jeter. It's stupid. Have we not established at this point that the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame voting is absolutely asinine?
It is, for sure. But they didn't have the longevity that Ichiro had. Derek Jeter did, sure, but Derek Jeter did unanimous. Wasn't even the best shortstop in the league at his time.
Okay, that's debatable. But I would say, like, with everything, like the Baseball Hall of Fame is so gatekeepy. It's like,
yeah, I
understand that, yes, there are rules. Yes, oh my God, the integrity of the game. Fuck out of here. How can I have a Hall of Fame without Barry Bonds and Alex Rodriguez and Roger Clemens? And yes, even Curt Schilling. I don't condone all of the nasty shit he said over the years, but come on, like, put him in. Like, also Carlos Beltran, he should be in the Hall of Fame too. Like, for him to be ostracized, I guess, he's getting more votes, but like, for what he did with the Astros, like, I thought that whole thing was stupid. The fact that he had to give up his job as Mets manager, like, at the end of the day, Copes and I were talking about this today, like, the museum still honors these guys, but can you really have a Hall of Fame without any of these guys in there, without their own plaque?
No.
Like, we had a caller today that was pissed off that Ricky Henderson didn't get every vote from writers. And writers get it wrong. They hold grudges against players because they weren't nice to them. Like, it's just stupid. I mean, is there a perfect way to do it? No, because I think if you have players vote for the Hall of Fame, then most of the time they're going to get in. But also sports writers are, like I said, they're gatekeepy. They're like, oh, this guy was mean to me one time. I can't stand it. So I give props to Ichiro and Vallejo Zone, CC Sabathia, and who else won it today? Billy Wagner. They all deserve to go in. I would even say Felix Hernandez, maybe not a first ballot Hall of Famer, but he definitely, when I was watching him against the A's, I feel like he was a Hall of Fame pitcher. Now, he doesn't have the same numbers as CC Sabathia, but in time, I think he should get in as well. This should be to honor those guys. And I think it's bullshit that we move on from the other guys that, because of steroids, they're ostracized from getting in. At the same time, like, Ichiro got in. Like, that's why, like, we talked to Matt Mayoko about this today. Like, they don't know the percentages when it comes to NFL Hall of Fame voting. It's like, guys just get in. And I think that's what we should celebrate. Yes, it's stupid. So I wouldn't want to give the time of day to the sports writer that didn't vote Ichiro in.
I think we find him.
Oh, yeah? You want to egg his house?
Grill him.
Throw acid in his face like Rob Manfred?
Oh, I forgot about that. That was accidental. That was an accidental slip up on my part.
I'm sure a lot of Giants fans would like to do that today over Rob Manfred being like, I love the Dodgers signing every single player.
Also, just with Ichiro's 262 hit season, I decided to look up the MVP voting because I'm like, how the hell did he not get MVP that year?
In 2004, I saw you.
2004. So I was just looking up and down, and you know what? Screw it. I'll just open up the picture.
Who got it? Was it Vlad Guerrero?
It was, but just this is just the American League numbers, Derek. But he was 7th in the voting, and if you can't look that close, like, you're seeing Miguel Tejada, 311 batting average, David Ortiz, 301, 41 home runs, Manny Ramirez, 308, 43 home runs, Gary Sheffield, 290 batting average, 36 homers, 121 RBIs. You know, I kind of came to a realization, Derek, and maybe this is an obvious one, but it's one I've never really subscribed to because I'm part of the conventional thought that athletes evolve over time. Like, they get bigger, faster, stronger, they evolve, right?
Mm-hmm.
But looking back on the statistics alone, I understand that there's all these excuses about how, well, batting averages aren't up because all they focus on is home runs, and they only rely on the home run, the walk, and the strikeout. They don't care about batting average. All they focus on is swing playing, or the fact that pitchers are as good as they've ever been, which I do believe. But I'm just looking back at if you had to like make I'm crediting Joe Shasky, I guess, with this type of thing. But if you're like creating like a pie chart, he always calls it a pie chart of culpability when he's talking about the blame. But if you created a pie chart as to why the batting numbers are down in Major League Baseball nowadays, you could have, well, pitchers are better. Well, you could have, they don't try to hit for contact anymore. I just think a large piece of that, the players just aren't as good.
Yep.
Like the stars just aren't as good. And I think that's kind of just the bottom line. I've always tried to make these excuses, because I'm like, no, there's no way that that's happening. Like this is 2025. Players are better than yesteryear. And sure, there were performance enhancing drugs involved with quite a few players,
but it was better.
But even Juan Soto right now is hitting like 250, and they just gave him a bazillion-dollar contract over there in New York. Like baseball players were just better back then.
Yes.
And like we can certainly talk about the fact that pitching velocity is way up, and spin rate and all of that, how they're throwing breaking balls like never before. Well, I'd like to think that the players of yesteryear would be able to adjust to that. Like, dude, you're seeing. Actually, let me go back to those numbers here. Hang on one second.
No, but to the point you were making, Steven, I'm 100% in agreement with you, because this is me as more of a casual fan of baseball currently. When I was younger, I loved baseball. Like,
right.
There was a point where I wouldn't say I was more of a baseball fan than football fan, but it was comparable. And I'm with you, dude. Like everybody that's on this list for AL MVP voting in 2004, I remember. And it was just more fun. It was covered differently. And obviously, Baseball Tonight, Web Gems, all that shit. Like it's just, you had more stars, you had more interest. And maybe that's just because our society today is, the attention span is lower. But yeah, man, like Ichiro, yes, he was a star, but there were so many stars. Vlad Guerrero, Prince Fielder, like CC Sabathia, like everybody that is up for the Hall of Fame these days. I remember watching these guys, and it's just not the same. And maybe it's also a product of Rob Manfred trying to make the game more universal, and he turns the other cheek when the Dodgers sign every player and the Yankees sign every player, and that's good for baseball. But I was talking about this with Walter last night on his podcast. I just don't think it's a good product right now because, yes, you got Ohtani and you got Mike Trout and you got Bryce Harper and you got Juan Soto and Aaron Judge. But for the most part, we're lacking stars like we did in the past.
And we're just lacking. Like, we are. And like, see, here's the thing. It's like, it's sad that players don't hit for average anymore. That's from Otis Bird III. I think it's just, I think the words you could put in between that, it's sad that players aren't good enough to hit for average anymore. It's not that you just don't want to, it's that they're not good enough. Yeah. Like, you're not good enough to hit for 300. And like, you look at the RBI numbers, you'll actually see like relatively the same amount of hits if you're looking at like the MVP voting from this year compared to years past. But look at the RBI numbers, man. There are just so many guys who are over 100. And if you look in like the top 10 alone in the 2024 voting, barely any guys are over 100. There's a few, but not many. Yeah. And it's super frustrating. It's just like, when I was looking back, I'm like, I don't know. It was like an epiphany almost. It's like, geez, like I've been thinking way too much into it. It's like, no, it's not, I forgot to mention the shift. The shift is prohibiting guys from getting base hits because they're always hitting there. Well, you know what? Hit around it then. You should be good enough to be able to hit where you want to.
I hate that they took a part of strategy in the game out because it was unfair. That's ridiculous.
Ichiro would have. He would have found a way to hit around it.
Yeah.
Like that's really what it came down to at the end of the day. And maybe it's because like now these Hall of Famers are more like, now we're starting to get, now my generation is starting to get into it too, where I like watch these guys from day one. And I'm not going to act like I watch like every game. It's not like I was, watching MLB TV big league extra innings when I was 8 years old. But it's like, damn, players just aren't as good anymore.
They're not.
It's true. Sad.
I miss my Royd baseball. I do. It was good times. I like Sammy Sosa versus Mark McGwire.
Yeah.
I didn't care that they were doing all that shit. I thought it was entertaining as hell when Rafael Palmeiro was on Capitol Hill saying, I have never taken performance-enhancing drugs, and Mark McGwire did his shit where I misremember. No, that was Roger Clemens. I misremember. And Sammy Sosa forgot he knew how to speak English. But it was hilarious. And it was good entertainment.
Jose Canseco told on all of them in a book.
Yeah. I mean, that's why, like, I always, like the Bash Brothers were awesome, but Jose is just a snitch. Good Lord.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, he was. Yeah. I don't know, man. It kind of makes you yearn a little bit. By the way, did you see the Giants? He signed Joey Lucchesi into a spring minor league deal.
I saw that.
Yeah, man. I played with that guy.
Did you really?
Yeah, he's free. You'll see it. He's 31 years old, and he played for Newark Memorial, which was like the high school that played in our division. But of course, like the kids that I played against in Little League all went to the high schools around there. And Newark is like the adjacent city to Fremont. And we played on the same travel ball team, the Tri-City Scrappers.
Look at that little name drop right there.
Yeah, I know, right? It's all I got. But it's crazy to think.
Get him on the pod, Steven, or get him on KCBS. Let's go. Make those connections.
Dude, when you're in Little League, like, you think like players are good, and you're thinking to yourself at the time, like, oh man, these guys can go pro, right?
Yeah.
But then, like, but then when you get to kind of high school and you start learning, like, oh my God, you really got to be like the best of the best, like the top 1% if you want to get to the major league.
The best of the best.
Best of the best of the best. Sir.
With honor.
And then you like, maybe you're wrong. It's like, no, we were right. Like, because the two guys from Newark Memorial who made it to the big leagues, Chris Flexen and Joey Lucchesi, both of those guys pitched against our high schools. Obviously, I talked about him nonstop when he got called to the Giants because I was stoked. But childhood friend Mark Mathias, who we always thought was going to be,
I remember him last year.
Like, he got called up, and that was really awesome getting to see him on the field and seeing his family and everything. Like, so yeah, I really hope Joey gets to the big league club. That would be awesome.
That would be awesome.
Yeah,
for
man.
Steven to name drop even more.
Yes, dude. That's exactly it. That's it's all for my personal benefit.
There you go. Well, all right. That's it for tonight, guys. We'll talk more about the Warriors on Saturday's show. I'm just kind of, we'll see what happens with them against the Kings tomorrow night. And yeah, I'm just kind of over it at this point. Like, we'll talk about it more on Saturday, and we'll see what develops with these head coaching hires. I think Aaron Glenn met with the Jets tonight, but left, and now he's going to talk to the Saints. So we'll see if he picks between those two teams. And we'll preview the conference championship games this Sunday. So me and Steven will be back on Saturday. We'll be thinking 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll do it 10 o'clock on Saturday. All right, everybody. For everybody in the chat tonight, thank you to Ernie1, Ernie2, Otis Bird is the word, AJ Cruz, Pat H, who has a long email. I took his information down for the contest he won earlier today. Good Lord. Our guy Walter to say what's up, Hose. I think Skills popped in for a little bit. Tacky was hanging around for a little bit, but he had to go watch Kitchen Nightmares, whatever bullshit show he had to watch. Pig 76 came through. And I believe that's it for tonight. All right, guys. Thanks as always. We'll see you on Saturday. Steven, say what you always say.
By the way, coming up on Saturday, we will name our best Glens in sports. Aaron Glenn or Glenn Allen Hill? That's all coming up. Just your opinion, man.
Who?